Why politics and free enterprise are hardly able to learn from each other. Of course, you may have often heard that free enterprise organizations from the economy, from free enterprise, tell you, oh, it's all so inefficient, the public hand is wasting taxpayers' money. They should focus more on the principles we apply, and then you see people who go from free enterprise to politics or vice versa, and they often fail miserably. Why is that the case? Because especially right now, you will often see that in one way or the other, no matter if it's the UK with Brexit or if it's the changes we now have in the Federal Republic of Germany or the change which are coming up next year in France, for example, with the general election, or in the Netherlands, where in 2 months' time they have general elections, you will always see the claim that free enterprise says, do it like we do, and then everything will be better. Well, let's face it, a couple of organizations are quite close to free enterprise, and let's see how that went. What happened last week? When we only look at the last 7 days, we had a couple of aspects which were quite interesting for us. And one of these aspects is that often, even organizations where free enterprise was very present, suddenly it didn't go as well as they expected. So, for example, the National Rifle Association in the US is bankrupt. For the first time, we have a referee in the British Premier League admitting that Manchester United was preferred by referees. Craig Ross in the UK, a Conservative MP, someone who's in the Parliament, said, and I quote, "Fat food bank users are far from starving." Yes, this happened. I'm not making this up. Donald Trump got impeached the second time. The Republicans, however, still voted. Large numbers of the Republicans voted against impeaching Donald Trump, which, by the way, shows a lot about the often proclaimed values free enterprise pretends to have. As soon as the cameras turned away from the Capitol after the attempt of a coup and the storm of the Capitol, right after, when they had the first moment to show their true colors, only a handful, only 10 Republicans voted in favor of impeaching Trump. So, wow, 10 out of 140 have something like a consciousness. Very promising. And by the way, just because I am very open about the bias I might have, I am conservative. I am politically conservative in an English-speaking sense. In Germany, I am with the Liberals. That's the pro-economy, low taxation party. In the UK, not Boris Johnson style, but David Cameron, I am politically conservative. So I should support Republicans, and I would not do in the US. There is no chance to support that party, because I cannot understand how people can be so public about their values and then show so little in practice. And one very important decision was just recently made, just a couple of days ago. The successor of Angela Merkel was elected, and there was quite a fight going on between two main candidates, 3 in total, but one was falling behind very quickly. So the two main candidates one of them was Armin Laschet, who was basically saying he was doing as Angela Merkel did, continuing her course. And then there was Friedrich Merz, a former C-level lawyer from BlackRock Investment, who also claimed leadership. And at the end, Friedrich Merz lost. So the BlackRock lawyer lost against the person who now promises to keep Angela Merkel's heritage alive and continue with what she has done before. However, it is the second time that this BlackRock lawyer, who's very successful in free enterprise, wanted to become the leader of the Conservative Party, and he failed for the second time. Immediately, he offered himself to be the secretary for the economy, which Angela Merkel immediately turned down. And let's see where he will be next, because I don't think that he could serve somewhere in the party. He for sure will go back to free enterprise, somewhere back in the economy, to have a more lucrative position and criticizing the government from the outside, which is fair enough. A position even within the same party, of course, is welcome in a democratic discourse. However, once more, Friedrich Merz, the BlackRock lawyer I mentioned, failed because he gave a speech which was as bland as a speech can be, with no emotions whatsoever. And when you have no emotions and then you make mistakes, and he had that last time, and he had it again this time. I just give you 2 quotes. He said that even the socially weak will find a home with him. Talking about the socially weak, let me talk about women. And yes, he said that. He said it that way. And he also said that let me talk about women. By the way, I cannot be anti-women, because that's what some people claimed. He said, I cannot be anti-women because otherwise my 2 daughters would have shown me the yellow card already, and my wife wouldn't have married me 20 years ago. Yeah, so when you say you have 2 daughters and a wife, and that means you cannot be anti-women, it's the same level of argument and reasoning when you say, I can't be an anti-Semite because I have Jewish friends, and I cannot be homophobic because I know gay people. Sorry, these kind of rhetorics are so poor. I know that especially lawyers are very convinced of what they do, and I am not questioning the qualification. Becoming a lawyer is very complicated, and you must have a very brilliant mind to get good marks in that very competitive environment. However, when you constantly fail as soon as you address the general public, you need professional training. I am now delivering professional training about public speaking for 22 years. English is not my first language, and I learned it the hard way with a very strict teacher. Mrs. Friebe, who's sometimes listening to this podcast, a brilliant teacher from 7th grade until A-levels. I had her as my English teacher, including her implementing Speaker's Corner when we were barely 14 years old. And we had to give free speeches in English with no notes in front of class. And we all hated her for it. And today we are all very thankful for her teaching us not only the standard school material, but she taught us how to properly speak the language. So, but of course, we once more have the attitude of free enterprise, of the economy, telling the world, if you do it like we do, things will be better. And of course, especially after elections, many journalists and many speakers, trainers, coaches, you name it, they do it. Many of them will tell you what you can learn from, and then you have some sort of political leader, and they draw, let's be clear about that, they draw very bland conclusions and try to convince you that you can transfer knowledge from free enterprise into politics, or from politics to free enterprise. And that simply does not work. So first, we look into the problem, but then of course we also talk about how to do it better, because as promised, every podcast will be first looking into the problem, second, giving suggestions how to do it better. So aspect number 1, free enterprise always claims that you can exchange knowledge without context. And that is simply not possible. I give you an example. When, for example, you're looking for a service provider, no matter what you're looking for, often people will say, just look into your network. Just look, what kind of people do you know? And that is simply, let's just take the example of the Federal Republic of Germany. This is not possible. There's a public bid. There's a public tender. There are very strict laws. You cannot just give business to people just because you know them. I know that now people from the UK will say, well, in the UK last year, I know. It was a bit of a rough year, or, well, it was a bit of a rough decade probably, because it became quite common that business was given away with no tender to close party friends, which is never good. And people, of course, feel that taxpayers' money got wasted. Just to give you one example, during the Brexit transition period, they were looking for a shipping company. They needed ships to transport food in case of Brexit, when they had food shortages, to bring food from France to the UK back and forth. And they gave it to a company where not only people found out that they just quickly threw together a website, which when you clicked on it had no substance whatsoever. When you look into the terms and conditions, they copied the terms and conditions from a pizza delivery service, and they even forgot to delete the name of the pizza service. But they won the so-called bid or tender, or whatever you want to call that, what happened there. And then, of course, people found out they didn't even have ships. They had no experience in logistics or transport or food or shipping, because they obviously wanted to buy the ships from the money they got from the government and then take it from there. So the whole contract was cancelled. But of course, a signed contract, when you want to get out of a signed contract, of course, the other side says, what's my compensation? And millions of British pounds were gone. The claim that you can take knowledge from free enterprise to politics does not work, as we see with numerous examples. And people simply mix up, and that's aspect number 2. They mix up, and sorry when I now have to talk about these words, but we need to get to the real foundation of this, and this means we have to talk scientific terms at least for 30 seconds, so bear with me. So you're mixing up bidirectional transitive positions of trust with a proper scientific proof and evidence-based approach. So of course now people will wonder, what are bidirectional transitive positions of trust? I just give you an example. Let's say Mrs. Miller wants to sell you something, but you don't know Mrs. Miller. So Mrs. Miller says, I want to sell you something, and you think I don't know her, but you know that me, Niels Brabandt, I know Mrs. Miller. I trust Mrs. Miller and she trusts me. So that's a bidirectional trust. So now you ask me, do I think that Mrs. Miller and her goods are worth investing? And I say yes. So you trust me and I trust you. Again, bidirectional. So we have 2 bidirectional trusts. We have 2 positions of bidirectional trust. Me to you. To me to you. No, sorry. Me to you and me to Mrs. Miller. By the way, tribute to the Chuckle Brothers, legends. So me to you and me to Mrs. Miller. And suddenly, although you do not know Mrs. Miller personally, or you don't know her too well, because I referred her to you, the position of trust, the trust I have into her, moves on to you. And that is the transitive moment. And that's why we have bidirectional transitive positions of trust. However, this is still heavily based on networking. This is heavily based on who knows who. And this can lead to a very bad decision when you do not do, and that is what you need to do, a science-based, proof and evidence-focused approach. And you cannot mix up bidirectional transitive positions of trust with a proper, scientifically founded, proof and evidence-focused approach. But unfortunately, people do. And once more, free enterprise says, do it like we do, and everything's going to be fine. No, it's not. And by the way, Donald Trump is the perfect example. I mean, he's a bad businessman as well, as we saw due to his debt, and the New York Times leaked everything. And in my opinion, that is a very horrible track record as a businessman. But that's a different story. So when you have the situation that someone claims, do it like free enterprise does, do it like the economy does, and everything will be okay, there is one more reason why you should not support that approach, besides the fact that factually the claim is just plain wrong. The position of power the economy is in always makes them feel superior to the politicians who drive the country. That is due to different aspects and a very complex issue. However, the focus of politics, when you have reasonable politicians in place, and fortunately, in many countries you might be frustrated, you might not like them, but let's face it, on a global scale, when you listen to this podcast on a global scale, when you are now sitting in a place with a roof, when you have water and food and a job, when you are healthy and at least wealthy to the amount that you say you know how to buy food next week, then let's face it, you have reasonable politics in place, because just compare on a global level how it can go when you don't have that in place. But the position of power free enterprise has often leads to the wrong assumption that this can be transferred to politics. Politics is based on an income which is based on taxes, and of course we complain about taxation, and I'm not an exemption to that, not at all, I'm not exempt at all. So complaining about taxes became a sport, but at least with politicians you have the interest of the majority represented. Some people make, let's say, debatable choices when they put their cross somewhere on the voting bill, but they have the right to do so. It is not illegal to make stupid decisions. Unfortunately, question mark. So, different story. So politics is based on having a broad agreement in society that we all get along in one way or the other. And free enterprise, the economy, does not have that. The economy is based and focused on profit. And of course you can say we should make the state profitable and we shouldn't waste money, and we always should look into, is it worth the investment? Look, I'm going to give you a very straightforward phrase here, because Niels Brabandt, I am sitting here on my own. I am not married. I do not have children. I promise you, if you support that approach, I will be way better off. When you are married, when you have a partner, when you have a spouse, when you have someone who lives with you, when you have children, when you have anyone around you who is not doing well or is not completely healthy, these people will struggle big time. Because of course, we can go down the road of let's look into the return on any penny or any cent we invest. And of course, from that point of view, I, as a single white man, could say, it's not my problem that you have children. You have to pay for their public school or for their kindergarten or for the doctor's appointment or when your children are ill. Not my problem. And by the way, you need to pay more taxes because you use way more resources because it's you, your partner and your house and the street and the electricity and the water and the children and the school and everything. So you see how this goes. It will ruin the foundation of our social well-being. I am far away from being a socialist, as I said before, but the claim, the omnipresent claim every week to say if you do it like the economy does is simply wrong. And we have, as Lyndon B. Johnson said, we have to overcome, talking about impeached presidents, because Trump is a businessman as well. And when we see how people do who come from free enterprise, from the economy, and then they go to politics, we simply see it is not going too well. But of course, we now should focus on how can we do better. Aspect number one, specialization is important in your organization, but specialization does not mean that people need to know everything. And I tell you how it often goes. An organization, for example, a company, hires an expert. And experts are very, very expensive, of course, because they know what they are worth. So they get a very good salary, he or she, or whichever gender identity they may have. This person now, of course, has high expectation towards them. And then suddenly you give them tasks which are sort of around them and quite close. And then you stretch their expertise to the point where you say that person has to basically know everything of the whole department. And that's where it goes wrong. Because expertise, and that's aspect number two, expertise has to be in the right position, in a specialized and focused position. And often people say the best expert gets promoted to the next level and the next level, and suddenly you are somewhere on board level, and then people find out that they cannot lead people, they are bad leaders, they are bad communicators, they have no idea how to communicate with people or the media or on social media or anywhere because it is not their expertise. Aspect number one, expertise is important, but never claim or expect that they know everything. Aspect number two, expertise must be in the right position, and often the right position is not on board level. But now here's the problem why often people want to get on the board. And that is because often with expertise, you have a second-class career in an organization. Just look, in every mid-sized or larger organization, there are normally two careers. Sometimes they have three career paths. So career path number one is you're an expert. And of course you can be promoted, but when you stay in the expert track, your income is somehow limited. When you leave the expert track and you go to the management track where you overlook people and you manage people, you turn resources into values, payment is way, way better. So it is very attractive that when you're an expert, and it's also very lucrative that when you're an expert to claim that you know more and more and more in the position you are, because that is the way how you normally get on board level where the best payment is offered to you. We all know that pretending to know it all is never a good choice, and every good leader will tell you how many assistants they have and how many consultants they have, people you never see, but they do a tremendous amount of work. Bad leaders pretend they know it all and they act like they know it all. Sometimes there's a third option because some people might now claim, oh, sorry, Niels, we have technical managers. So we have an expert track, we have a leadership track, but we have something in the middle, which is called technical managers. Yes, it's a good approach. It is a place where people can connect between expertise and the management area. It must be set up very well, and it also needs to be paid well. But here's the point now. Often, and this is what the philosopher Hegel already said before, many people strive for being recognized. And it gets even worse. Some people in science who do social sciences say that many people are driven by an addiction to being recognized, to being taken important, to be someone in their organization, in their community, in their city, or even in their country, or even on larger scale internationally. And this point of seeking, to be someone leads to a behavior which simply wants to make you feel superior to others. You want to have appreciation, you want to have recognition, the acceptance, the acknowledgement. People pay tribute to you. People compliment you, and the recognition and the endorsements you get makes you feel more accepted, and you are an authority in your industry. Many people are addicted to recognition or appreciation. And that is not a good way how to run an organization. Unfortunately, the economy favors people who behave that way. And the main issue with that is that this is not very sustainable, because as soon as you make mistakes, you will be replaced by someone else, and then you go for the next position, often in a completely different organization. I just recently met a client in the center of Germany where just someone from a consultancy company, a large consultancy company, a very well-known consultancy company, and I see that happening more and more, came from a consultancy gig, and these consultants often deliver very good work. I don't want to talk down on them, but this person simply came into the organization, took their knowledge from theory, put it into the organization at whatever price, damaged the employer's brand significantly, costs for recruiting raising, high employee turnover, very low profit afterwards. They were only focused on the KPI. And when one person wasn't enough, they hired another one. Surprise, from the same network, from the same group of consultants, and another one from the same consultancy company. So while at the same time costs for board level positions went through the roof, they were cutting costs left, right, and center because they were looking at KPIs only. And that is a very sad and also very poor way how to lead an organization. And that is why you cannot simply say the economy does it all good and politics is doing it all bad. Politics, no matter how bad these politics are, especially when you are in a sort of reasonable-ish democratic country, most politicians try, in one way or the other, to serve a general agreement to make society a better place. Some people may have a weird idea what the better place is, but it's not as bad as you think. And please don't claim that free enterprise is doing it all better. The learnings between politicians and politics, the learnings between politics and the economy, the politics and free enterprise, these learnings are very limited because they have a very different approach. Politics are in for the greater good when they're doing it well, and the economy is in for the profit. And by the way, both need to exist because the state needs the money taken by taxation from the profit from the economy. So they both have the right to exist, but please don't transfer knowledge from A to B with no context, because that never worked. And by the way, that never worked in any situation. So just to wrap it all up, when you want to do it better, specialization, yes, but never claim that you know it all, because that's not your job. Aspect number 2, expertise is very important, but in the right position. You have to offer career path for experts, for technical managers, and for management people. So no matter if you focus on the expertise, the leadership area, or the middle way, all three must have the option for a good career, because otherwise many people who are driven especially by money will decide to go for a management-only career, which is not a good choice for many. And aspect number 3, these careers easily can be driven by an addiction or a search for recognition and appreciation. So be aware of the fact that you need the best people on the board who are not only experts, who are able to manage people. And when you then find the right people there, you do not run the risk that people are in the game for the wrong reason. And of course, I'm happy to get in contact with you. Just drop me an email, nb@nb-networks.com. Let's start this discussion about that. I'm very happy discuss it with you. And now, of course, I wish you all the best implementing these principles in your organization. And for this week, there is only one thing left for me to say. Thank you very much for your time.